guys, this is Kelly. Thanks for listening to the Body Breakdown. And this week I just happened to be at the river, the good old Mississippi, doing our newsletter for the week. But this week's topic is all about mobility, so check it out. Okay guys, welcome back to the Body Breakdown with TNT. I am Kelly. I am back to our normal crew of men here.
What's up?
Hello.
So last week was a little different. We had Caleb in, and he talked about all manners of things.
Caleb doing Caleb things.
That's true. Because Mr. Tyler is over on vacation. How was it?
I'm slightly more tan.
got a good dose of vitamin D.
Not a lot.
I was going to say, it doesn't take much to get tanner than you were.
Yeah.
I went from white to beige.
White.
Mostly ghostly. But anyway, now that you're back, we're going to go back to our regular schedule here. So today we are talking about mobility.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah. So a lot of our clients are used to that word. They know what a mobility session is whenever they come into us. But how would you guys describe a mobility session at TNT for those who have never been in?
Well, usually whenever we're working on mobility, it's because people have pain. So our goal with our mobility sessions is to be able to take tension off of bones. That releasing of tension allows, the body to go back into its the skeletal structures to go back to where it's supposed to. So in our mobility sessions, really what we're working on is we're working on trying to elongate, we're trying to stretch out the muscles so the skeletal structures can start dropping back to where they're supposed to, more or less.
I think of it as mobility means the ability to move. Mobility is move. So we're trying to make sure the joint can move correctly, and that's what we're doing. Is it massaging something to allow it to move? Is it stretching something to allow it to move? We're trying to make the joint move, and that's our number one goal in our mobility sessions is why is this joint not working right? What's going on? And that's what we're trying to figure out and getting it to straighten, figure out what's holding it up and what's not allowing it to move. If that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's always a big one too. It's like being able to get people to understand that muscles are what's preventing the joint from moving.
Yeah.
Hence myomechanics.
Yeah. So like you said, back to a joint is composed of a muscle and bone. So if the joint is not moving, the bone is not moving, but something's holding it in place from moving. It's a muscle that's holding it in place, and that's what we do in our mobility sessions is make those muscles move.
Yeah. There we go. Yep.
So whenever people hear mobility, they tend to think flexibility. And I'm like, oh, well, or maybe this is what we all tell ourselves. I'm pretty flexible. I'm sure it's not too bad. So how does someone know if they have good mobility or not?
So I think most people, the number one thing people when they think of mobility is, can I touch my toes? That's the number one thing. So if you can touch your toes, most people think that they're flexible. Or when they think of flexibility, that's not mobility. Yeah. You're right. When I think of flexibility, I think of touching your toes, and that's the number, but that's only measuring literally one joint. It's measuring your hamstrings and your lower back, really, lower back muscle. So technically your hip extension and your trunk is mainly all it is. So that's one area of movement, that's only one area. So that's where most people think, but you got to realize, and there's a joint in your hip joint has 6 movements. Your spine has 4 different movements, then your shoulder has movements, and your neck has movements, and your knee has movements, your ankle has, all of those have movements that happen. So you might be, very mobile in one joint or one direction, and that's what we see. Sometimes some people are really flexible or moving in one direction, but you try to move in the other direction, and they're very, very bad. And that's where we see. So whenever we're looking at it, we're analyzing left, right, front, back, side. We're looking at joint to joint, rotation. We're looking at multiple things, not just the one, can I touch your toes? Why everybody thinks that is whenever you were in school, you did a sit and reach test. And that's all that's measuring is your same concept of ability. And the people that can do it, you're like, man, you're flexible. Yeah, you're flexible at that one test. You know what I mean?
I remember that test, and that was terrible.
Yeah, exactly. But you had the people that could do it really, really well. They were flexible in that level, but doesn't mean they were flexible in other areas of the body at the same time, though.
Yeah, for sure. Kudos to Dave.
I concur.
Ditto. I was learning.
Well, Tyler, maybe we'll start this one off with you.
Yeah.
Why is mobility important?
Well, it once again allows your body to move, and then it also takes the tension off of your joints so you don't have pain. So pain is your body's way of telling you have tension on these bones. What we do is we try to take those tensions off by loosening up the muscle groups, and then in turn you don't have pain. So that's the importance.
Yeah.
So would a lack of mobility, even if they don't have pain yet, be an indicator of what's to come?
Yes, it'd be a potential, and that's really in our first day evaluation. That's what I'm looking for. Anything that can be a potential cause of their pain now, but also any type of potential threats long term. Because there's range of motions that maybe it's maybe your range of motion is supposed to be 45 degrees, but it's really right now at 50. So you're 5 degrees off from where it's, but that's something that's moving in the wrong direction. So it's like, those are all things that we're starting to look at, like, okay, well, like, this is going to start getting bad, and why is that tighter and stuff along those lines.
Yeah, a lot of times that's where people just started compensating, moving differently. They don't even know they're doing it, and that's what we see is, whenever I used to, bend over and bend over and pick something off the ground, I would, twist my body and lift something up. But now you turn your whole body, you bend over, you bend over differently to pick it up. You don't even realize you did it. You didn't even realize you turned your body, and you're avoiding that twist movement. Because you lost the mobility of that. Like, some of that stuff happens. People, a lot of times we're looking at people and they don't even start working on somebody. They don't even realize a problem exists. That they're like, oh yeah, like this doesn't move. They're like, huh, you're right, it doesn't move. Like, yeah, it should look like this. And they're doing it and they're like, huh, like I didn't know that was a problem, and it hasn't been a problem because what they're doing on a daily basis isn't elongating that. So now if you're a person that had to bend over all day and doing that and you don't have the ability to do that, that's gonna become a problem really quickly. So they're not able to, if you're able to compensate around it and it's not that big of a deal, it's not that big of a deal. But now if you're someone that has to do something with it and you're hitting in the range of that motion over and over and over again, that's gonna cause pain, that's sometimes happens. Or you keep getting bad mobility in other areas, and eventually it just keeps getting worse and worse. Because I always say, you're either getting tighter, or you're getting more flexible, or you're getting stronger, or you're getting weaker. So your body's never maintaining. So if you're like, oh yeah, I just want to go start exercising to maintain, that doesn't exist. Like, that's not a real thing. You're either working towards something, or you're going, growing down. So you're either getting stronger, you're getting weaker, or you're getting more flexible, or you're getting tighter. So like, if you haven't been stretching for a really long time, there's a high chance you're not flexible. And then the other thing is it takes some time for, you don't just, I did one stretch or I stretched for a week and my flexibility is be perfect. Like, it takes years, it's sometimes for someone's flexibility to really, really start improving. I mean, I guess not in that, you can see a lot of results in the short term, but if you quit doing it, it's gonna go right back. So to get to where your body wants to go and stays, you gotta consistently do it over time. Because as soon as you stop, you start going the opposite direction. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, and I think even a more important part is if you're going back to your part about saying about movement, this is where we see mobility affects people the most, is because, like you said, they start altering how they move. And people don't even realize it. So instead, for example, instead of getting out of bed sitting up, they roll over. Mm-hmm. It's because they don't have the mobility through their trunk, backside of their body to actually get up. Or it's like David said, they don't have the ability to rotate anymore. So then they turn their entire body. Or we hear people all the time, neck issues are always huge. It's now I can't turn my head this way, so
I turn my whole body
exactly. So now I turn my whole body to the right now.
Yeah.
So it's people start altering the way, and these are good signifiers that if you're already having these problems and you're starting to see I'm altering the way that I do things, this is a great time. If you don't know exactly how to fix that, this would be exactly the right time to come ask, a professional, a biomechanic, how can I fix this, more or less? Because it's going to cause problems long term. Yeah. So it's once again, so I always like to explain, not moving correctly over time is going to cause tension. Tension over time is going to create damage, and that damage over time is going to eventually lead to, now you're going to have, a big, massive thing to bring you back on track. So it's a lot of times, you do too much damage to the skeletal system, you can create some big issues where you do have to have surgery.
Yeah, I like to think of it too, is if you're even taking the neck, you're go to turn your head and you're not, you can't turn your head very far, you have to use your body, that ain't gonna fix itself. Only thing that's gonna happen is that's gonna get tighter. So if you can't turn your head to here, eventually it's gonna only be to here. And you're not gonna be able to turn your head even further. So this problem isn't gonna go away by itself. You've gotta strategically be working on those muscles. Because I said, they're only gonna keep getting tighter, or they're gonna get looser if you're working on the right things. Working on stretching, working on doing that to where you are moving the right muscles, digging into them to make sure those right muscles are moving.
Well, speaking of ways to fix things, what are some of the different ways that you guys improve mobility in a session?
You want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Alright, I'll take this. So we do one of two things. So we will do massage, which is to break up the tissue that's hindering your motion, or we will do different stretches to elongate the muscles to allow the movement to happen again.
Yeah, and we have different types of massage. We'll use compression massage where we're just literally using lotion or using just our fingers to dig in. And we have,
that's my favorite.
yeah, exactly. And then we have massage guns that is a vibration massage where you're really like, it's just putting a bunch of impulses in really, really quickly.
And we have multiple different variations from light all the way to heavy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we got some strong guns and we got some light guns.
It's not all jackhammers.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we have even little tools. If our fingers aren't good enough,
Scrapers.
we have little scrapers that we can use to dig out some of those muscles. Because all it is those muscles fibers get just interlocked, and you can just feel sometimes knots in there. And our goal is to try to get those knots out. And that's usually if you're trying to go into range of motion and it's not moving, and we go to stretch it and it doesn't increase the range of motion. That's when you need to go in and dig in with the massage techniques. And there's multiple techniques we can use. But then in the last level, to really get it to elongate and stay, is you got to stretch it. And then that's the last level, is really elongating the muscle by stretching it.
Yeah, and really what we do is we try, like our outcome that we're trying to do is we're trying to gain range of motion in the muscle groups that you're having problems to ensure that tension's taken off. If you gain the range of motion, then that means that now the tension is gone. So it's like that's kind of the part that we're really looking for in a lot of the mobility sessions, is we have to increase range of motion. And people always range of motion, really what's that mean? Well, it depends on what joint we're really working with, is because depending on what joint we're working with, you have a lot of different movements that can happen in there. And then we have specific movements that we're trying to go through. It's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah, I mean, even just think about it, even as in your elbow should be able to bend all the way to here and all the way down. So we have some people that you go and your elbow can't straighten out. So that's a good way to look at it, is now we need to increase the range of motion of this muscle here to allow the elbow to go out. That's super simple. I mean, it's happening. We have lots of rotational and different hips, and then you're adding rotation with flexion or extension. We have a lot of different things that we're adding, a lot of things, but in the simplicity of it, that's it. This doesn't move, we need to get to move better. So we try to get that glute muscle to go to get the full range of motion. So.
I always use the rubber band analogy. If your rubber band has a knot in it, it's not going to stretch nearly as far. And so that's where the massaging comes in to break that knot open, which if I had better nails, this would come out. Oh, look. Okay, so whenever the knot's gone, now the rubber band can lengthen way more, like it needs to.
Yeah. I got a good question. Why or how does somebody become immobile?
Well,
I'm asking anyway.
Okay.
See what you guys got.
Well, I mean, what happens when you don't move a muscle, it starts building up myofascial tissue on it. So a lot of that tissue gets built up on it, and you go to elongate that muscle, it's not elongating anymore. All that tissue's knotted up. So that's one area, just not moving it. Or the opposite, you can do too much. You overworking a muscle, then the same concept is your muscles are breaking down and new tissue is being built, and that new tissue needs to be broken up to elongate. So it's on both ends. This is where most people get it. They realize if you don't do enough, you're gonna get tight. If you do too much, you're gonna get tight. So it's on the extremes of both of them.
So I think the entire goal of the body is equilibrium. So you have to do equal amounts and making sure you do the same or the other.
Yeah. I was gonna say, even oftentimes I'll see people who have old injuries and they baby them for so long that the overcompensation for the other side is just dramatically different.
Yeah, that's just in the healing process. That's part of the process of healing, is that muscle can't move. So one, it doesn't get to activate, but there's scar tissue that gets built up on there too for the healing. So it's a two-pronged thing. It didn't move for so long, so it's gonna be tight. And now there's scar tissue there, so you got to break that scar tissue up. You got to break that fascia tissue up for it, because that's part of the healing process. You can't just start moving a muscle when it's damaged. So you're 100% right. That's a huge way where a person can have an immobility is from an injury too. So
I mean, another one is how much mobility do you need?
Depends on how much activity you want to do.
Bingo. That's usually people have all these classifications, how do you know if you're flexible or not? Now that's always my thing. It's it really depends on what you want to do. Being able to bend down all the way to the floor and like you said, touch your toes is going to be a different range of do you actually really need to do that, or what is it in your life that
are you sprinting and running freaking hurdles and jumping over hurdles compared to are you just trying to walk from your bedroom to your living room?
Or you're on a dance team and you got to put your leg behind your head. That's a different level of flexibility.
Because are you, like I said, are you just trying to get out of bed? There's two different levels of flexibility needed to do the thing. So it just depends on what, and that's what we're really good at, is matching what your daily activities that you're trying to accomplish and what you're doing matches the flexibility, matches the strength that you need to accomplish those activities in a day. So I mean, that's very specific questions for every single person.
Yes, and that's kind of the components, because that's what that's what we try to do. So we try to break it down. What is your specific thing you're trying to accomplish, and then be able to put metrics and things that these are going to be measures of success, and know we got there. Because that's a lot of people who are like, well, I can touch my toes, like that should be flexible. Like I'm flexible, but in reality, they're still having back pain. It could be your back pain is not because of your inflexibility there. It could be something else on the other side.
Well, and I think that's one of the biggest myths about mobility is that I don't really need it because I feel like I'm pretty flexible. But there is no person on this earth who is completely balanced because we all have different things, repetitive motions that we're all doing on a constant basis. And so, speaking of which, what's one of the myths that you guys hear about mobility a lot? Age also pops into my head too.
That's exactly. And I think that's like everybody's like, oh, well, I'm just getting older, like I'm just getting tighter. Well, really, what's going on is usually as you get older, you start doing less. So guess what happens? That tissue that we were talking about builds up on top of your muscles. It adapts to how much movement that you do. So if you're doing very little movement, then guess what? Those muscle groups get super tight, the ones that you're overutilizing throughout the day.
Or the other level of that is you're either stretching and becoming more flexible, or you're not stretching and becoming more tighter. And it's just a time equation at that point in time. Like, I'm getting older. No, you've been not stretching for a really long time, so it's just getting worse and worse. Like I said, that neck issue is not going to get better, it's going to get worse.
And then another one is like, oh, I just have arthritis because, I'm getting older. Like, that's also wrong. It's just, you haven't been stretching and you haven't been doing things for a really long time.
You just don't know what's causing the tension at that point. Arthritis is just inflammation being caused by tension on a joint. So like you just don't know what's causing the tension. So you just don't know that your wrist, if it's a wrist, should be moving in a certain way, but you don't use that way, or the hand's not moving in the correct spot. Like you don't know how the hand's supposed to be able to move or what it is. So like a lot of times with that, we'll see we'll go, hey, move your thumb away, and they can only move their thumb this far away from their hand, whenever reality it should be able to go way down here, or they're stuck way up here. And we see this all the time with people. And they have lots of arthritis in their thumbs and lots of arthritis on their finger. It's because the muscle tissue right here in their thumb is so knotted up that they can't even elongate it away from their hand. It's knotted up right up here.
That's even something we have issues with because we're massaging people.
So we have to,
we have to remember to mobile.
I'm literally constantly stretching out my thumb and constantly digging out my muscle tissue in my thumb because I'm doing this all freaking day, digging into there.
My thumbs are so strong now.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. And it's funny. It's my right thumb is way stronger than my left thumb, and I can feel the difference in the muscle tissue on the left side and the right because I'm right-handed and I use my right thumb all the time. So like my right thumb is crazy more. You look at someone's like biceps and someone's biceps are, man, those are huge. That's what my thumb feels like compared to like this thumb muscle tissue's big and this muscle tissue's here when it comes to like right here.
The thumb and
my arms may not be jacked up in,
but my thumb muscles are huge. I think next week we're gonna have a thumb war contest and see who has the strongest thumbs.
That is a competition.
Another one is, I think, people are like, oh, well, it shouldn't hurt like that.
Yeah, you're right, it shouldn't.
Because you haven't been doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's usually a big misconception. It's like, stretching and massage is supposed to feel good. Yeah, it's supposed to feel good whenever your muscles are balanced, but whenever they're not, it's gonna not feel good.
Yeah. Whenever there's a muscle tissue that's got knots in them, it's not going to be feeling good to get rid of those knots. It's going to take some pain, and then that's what we're good at is only putting the amount of pain, putting the stress on that muscle enough for your body can handle it. We're not going to go overly bored, and that's the time equation. You got to keep continually working on it to break that muscle tissue up. So yeah, we go through digging real hard, but it's so freaking painful. You can't even take it. We're not going to get anywhere. So that's what we're real good at is finding that good balance of amount of stress to the amount you can take.
I mean, I would say in a way, in a mobility session, a little bit of pain is progress.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you have to be going through a little bit of discomfort or pain while you're doing it, or you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, think about working out. If you're working out and it's easy to think you're getting anywhere, it's like the same thing. Your body has to experience levels of discomfort to make improvement. That's just how it works.
Stress. It's just like your body has to have stress to change. So if you're not putting stress on that from exercise or stretching or that, it's not changing. So your body only changes in extreme or just stress in general, is the only time it changes.
And I think that's where we come in, is we are really good at figuring out what is too little, what is too much, and being able to find what is good for you right now. Not only for the amount, but what we're actually doing. So
focusing on that changes consistently from session to session, from week to week. Like you do an exercise and you do it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that exercise is probably going to start becoming less difficult, and it's going to be a little easier. So you have to make an adjustments to up that difficulty of that exercise, so that now that amount of stress is equaling the amount of stress that we need. Now it's harder exercise. Or the same thing in massage. Like we might be barely pushing, not digging in just a little bit, and that's all you can take. But then 2 to 3 times of doing it, or a couple weeks, we can start digging deeper. Or the stretch, we can go harder into the stretch or further into the stretch. Because if you only stretch to the same level, you're only gonna get that. Well, you need to keep increasing the range that we're trying to get to each time.
Yeah, I think that's an important part is measuring consistently, making sure that you know where you're at, and then it's also how to measure it and stuff along those lines too.
And communication between client and trainer is a huge part
Yep.
too. So that if you are pressing a little too hard, if I hit over a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10 for pain, I don't want to go any further.
Yeah.
Now I could cause more inflammation, more issues in the short term, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Or
So
it's really difficult to go through 30 minutes of going on a 10 scale.
That is true.
You might pass out after a while, so it's really hard to even do that amount of workload. So you go through some pain, but to go for the amount of time or how often we're doing it, it's almost impossible to go for that long. So you can only go short amounts of time. So
This is true. Okay, well, last question is how is TNT's mobility different than, say, a massage that you would normally get at the salons around the area or a stretch from another trainer? How does our mobility differ from the other options that we have in town?
I think a lot of it is we actually do a professional evaluation of everything to make sure that we are indicated on the right areas with the specific problems that they have. So we initially sit down with them to figure out what current problems they're having, and then we go run our evaluation to make sure what things coincide with their problems, but also is there any other areas that could possibly be potential risk for problems at the same time. So that, and
I think most people are going to massage for relaxation. It's a stress relief thing. So that's what we're not trying to do. We're not trying to relieve stress. We're trying to change muscle fibers. We're trying to indicate change. So we're gonna go in there and we're gonna go dig deep until we get. If we're digging into muscle and we're like, oh, there's no problem here. We're not gonna continue to work on that muscle. We're gonna go find we're gonna go to the net where the problem's at. So we're going very specific into specific problem areas. When a lot of times a massage is going for a little bit of everything. And they're trying to. I just want to be relaxed. I'm doing this to feel good. That's the difference.
It's more of a so especially from massage therapy, it's more of a meditation type thing than it is actually. We're trying to actually get work done.
Yeah,
it's we're trying to be productive in what we're doing, and it's in a different.
It's a different productive.
Exactly.
It's not a bad thing at all.
Exactly.
That massage is great. Yeah.
I love a good relaxing massage.
Exactly. It's this. We're doing.
We have different objectives.
Yes.
Is what it is. So our objective is, like I said, mobility is to increase range of motion. So our objective in that session is to get that muscle moving. So we're increasing the range of motion. They're just trying to release stress, out of the muscles. They're just trying, trying to move it.
You had a tense week, and really, mentally need to get freed up. I just need some tension worked out of my muscles.
And then there's different types of. There is some types of massage therapists that are doing deeper tensions. Yeah, they're doing different versions of that. But it's just
But that said, I think you're missing an important aspect because it's not just about the massage. You also have to have the stretching in it to
100%.
increase that range of motion. And that flexibility.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the differences. Is we combine both of those. A lot of times people are only stretching or people are only massaging. It's the combination of both that it gets the result quick to increase range. Because if you just stretch and the muscle won't let go because it'll not, you got to massage to get it. Or if you're not only massaging, your massage is not going to elongate a muscle. You got to physically now stretch it. So you need that combination of both to really get the tension released of the muscles. And that's kind of when I say we have an objective of increasing the range of motion, increasing the range of that joint, and that's the difference. Is then we use whatever piece of modality we need to use to get that muscle to do what we want it to. And that's kind of the point. We have an end goal inside instead of just a massage and a massage, or is it? And sometimes I use zero massage. It's only stretching sometimes, because there is no knots. I just need to keep letting it move, So sometimes there's the others. It's so knotted up, I don't even get to stretch. I'm only massaging. Yeah. So we do what's very specific to that person to what they need to do to increase that range. If that makes sense, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Anything else that you want to throw in here about mobility? Maybe something we haven't covered, or?
I would say the biggest is. If you want to know if you're mobile or not mobile, or what areas that you're mobile in, come in for our 3 days and we will show you. That's the whole part of the very first day is we analyze each joint that you're having problems with to see if there's any immobilities.
Yep, and also it covers pain too. So if you're having pain, those are things that we cover with at the same time. So yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, you heard it here. Go ahead, check out the 3 free sessions if you're interested in experiencing a TNT mobility session on your own. And until then, we will see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.
See you.